It's Friday, and that means one thing. Sean, the movie guy, we're always happy to have you. And you know what I like about New Year's, or the change from one year to the other, is these retrospectives that people do. And you have probably one of my favorites at all. You look back at what you consider to be the best movies of 2023.
And it's interesting, there's a trend that we're not saying the best, we're saying favorites, right? Because I'll be honest with you, I make my top 10 list, and no sooner I finish it than I thought, oh, but what about this movie?
That's
but
true.
what about this movie?
That's true.
And so, and it's, best is always a subjective.
Right, it's subjective, and you're right. There's really, by the end of the year, there's usually not the best. You have favorites.
Exactly, and the ones that stay most in my memory is also the one here. So, but before we do our top 10 list, and on Monday we're going to go over my top 10 films of the year. And snooty film critics sometimes have these esoteric, these I've never heard of this German expressionism movie, So and I thought today let's talk about the best genre pictures, the best comedies, the best sci-fi, the best horror films.
That's a great way of doing it.
Yeah, exactly, because those are the films that more people will have seen. So.
And it's so true, because sometimes I'm not a sci-fi person, but then there'll be a sci-fi that I do like.
Yeah, exactly. So, where do you want to start?
I'll let you pick.
Let's go best comedy. Best comedy. So I went through and I listed, it's been a good year for comedy films, particularly for films of women behaving badly, right? And so my best comedy film of the year, I think, is Joyride. But we've also seen Quiz Lady. We also saw Bottoms. I mean, we No Hard Feelings. A lot of films where women were just leaning into the being raunchy, and quite frankly, I think a lot of it worked. Joyride in particular was the one that I thought worked the best. It's the story of 4 Asian American women. They're on an adventure overseas, and they get into trouble, mostly because they're 20-something-year-olds. So there's that universal comedy element of, 20-year-olds looking to have sex, meet people, in this case. But there's also some really specific cultural humor here as well, because they're Asian American, so they have to deal with issues of, parental, what their parents want them to do. Obviously a K-pop thing, which I thought was very funny. As far as comedies go, this is the one that made me laugh the most.
Nice.
But like I say, it was a good year for comedies.
And that's such a good point, because these female comedies now are doing, like, back in the 80s, a little after the guy comedies or the Hangover.
Well, and this
type
one,
now,
Joyride reminds me of the Hangover, except with females. So I thought it worked very well. It's funny, there was a long time there people, all these guys going, "Women aren't funny, man," and boy, I think they were very funny.
Just like female comedians as well now.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
a lot more taking the stage. Well, the best horror.
Best horror film. Oh, yes. Now, I will argue, and I got into a fight with a fellow film critic. I said there are not very many good horror films out this year. And that's mostly because a lot of the big ticket horror films, like The Exorcist, they paid hundreds of millions of dollars to do The Exorcist. And boy, it just didn't work. But the one that I liked the best was a little indie film called Talk to Me. And it was basically, the idea was there's this mystic's hand encased in plaster. And so it's a little hand figurine. And if you hold the hand and you say, "Talk to me," suddenly you could start seeing the dead. And if you said something like, I think it's, "I let you in," or something, the dead would come and inhabit your body. And what happens if the dead decide that they want to stick around?
Wow.
I thought it was an interesting premise.
That is very creepy.
I liked that it was a low budget thing. So a lot of the stuff here was pretty simple special effects. I just thought it was fun, and like I say, unique, and just a really good horror film. Had some genuine scares, some gross creep out vibes, and like I said, that indie film thing gave it a different feel than a highly polished Hollywood horror film.
Almost the simplicity adds to it.
Exactly,
for sure.
Right.
Well, now we have Best Action.
Best action film, and there have been some good action films this year, and I went back and forth on this one, because you asked me earlier in the year, Creed 3, I love Godzilla -1, Sisu is a film that a lot of people didn't see, but for me, John Wick 4, John Wick Chapter 4, Volume 4 is the film that I thought just did everything right. It's Keanu Reeves, the man can do no wrong.
Right.
It's that action stuff. It is just really, really well done. The fight choreography, wow, amazing stuff. The story, I'm kind of sad, because it sure seems like this franchise is over, although I understand they are working on, spin-offs and whatnot. John Wick needs to go forever. I want to see John Wick 80,
Well, you know what's so, and Keanu Reeves can do that.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
he is just in great shape, does a great job. But I discovered the John Wick series. The first one, I watched it in 2023 because of my godson. And I just was so amazed. I don't know what I was expecting before, but I never was interested until, you know, my godson showed it to me, and I watched it, and I'm like, this is really good.
Pure adrenaline-fueled, you know, just entertainment. It's not stuff you have to think too hard about. Just sit back and marvel at the fight choreography. I think they're done really well. I really am a big fan of the John Wick movies.
Well, let's hope we keep, every year we get a John Wick movie. That'd be great. Best sci-fi.
Sci-fi. This is one that I generally love quite a bit here. There's some pretty good stuff here. You know, a lot of the big Marvel movies didn't hit this year. I'll be and the DC DC fantasy films hit even worse. You know? But the one that I liked the most was The Creator, which is a kind of a low budget thing. It had great special effects though, and it had great world building, and it dealt with the issue of artificial intelligence, and is that a real threat to humanity here? But it also did that in kind of a genre way, so it becomes kind of a war picture. But I was really impressed by the world they built, by the way they incorporated humans and robots together, and then they told a kind of a simple story with a complicated worldview, and I thought it worked very well.
Well, and the next one, of course, Best Romance. That's everyone's favorite.
Yeah, you know, I'll be honest with you, I don't think there was a lot of great romance this year. And there are films, like number 2 on my list there, Past Lives, which is going to be on my top 10 list. I think that's a very good one. But it is a film that kind of skirts around romance. It's not the, oh, we fell in love type thing. The one that I think worked best as a traditional romance is Red, White, and Royal Blue. And you know, one of the reasons I like, now, okay, I have to tell you right now, this is a gay romance. And stuff, so some people are gonna have an issue with that. But the thing I like most about it is, most of the time you have a romance, you have 2 people in the movie who are obviously right for each other. And so the filmmakers and the screenwriters have to come up with a reason to keep them apart. And in this take, they have a real reason. One is the Prince of England, and the other is the President of the United States' son. And so there are 2 young men living in the public eye, and they have to worry about, you know, what a romance would do to their parents' careers here. So I liked it a lot. I thought the leads were charming. I thought they had a nice balance. I mean, a lot of people are going to be worried about, oh, is it going to get too sexual? It doesn't. I think it's pretty discreet. It's on Amazon, so it's a pretty mainstream film here. But I just thought it worked very well. I remember
when you did the review to this movie, and because of you, I learned about it and I saw it, and I totally agree with you. You brought it up the first time, and it's so true. And I think a lot of folks agree with you because by word of mouth, this became a hit.
Huge hit.
And I have to point out, I'm a huge fan of Uma Thurman, and she, as the president,
of the United States,
she is fantastic, both as a president and as a mom. She does a great job in this role.
Exactly. You know, so yeah, I'm a big fan of that movie. It was very surprising. Nobody saw this coming, and I mean, we knew the book. Book had been on the best sellers list here, but it's like, where did this movie come from? Oh, that was kind of sweet. So.
Definitely, for sure. And best animated
film. So
I can see this one.
This one's going to be easy. It's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and that's my pick. But I want to point out there are a lot of good animated films this year, and I mean, I could make a top 10 list of best animated films this year. Notably that there's no Pixar on that or Disney. I think the more interesting thing is the stuff that's coming out of Japan, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, while it's not a foreign film, it feels it's got that energy of an international thing. This is part 2 of a trilogy. I thought the animation was once again stunning. I thought the voice acting was very good. I thought that the story-wise, you know, they took that original story and twisted a new direction. I'm very sad that because of the strike, we're not going to get Spider-Man 3 in March like we were going to.
Yeah.
They're working on it, but there's no release date anymore. It was supposed to be March. It was like the week before the Oscars that this was supposed to come out.
Everyone loved this movie. It was amazing. The response was just fantastic. Well, best foreign language film.
Okay, best foreign language film. And I'm a little torn on this one because there's a lot of foreign language films that I genuinely love. The ones that I love, the first top 2 on that list, Past Lives and Anatomy of a Fall, are kind of part in English, part foreign language. So that might get some people to see it more. But boy, don't sleep on Radical, which is a Spanish language film that I thought was really, really wonderful out of Mexico. But Past Lives is my pick here. This is the story about a young woman. And this is gonna be on my top 10 list too. So young woman, and when she was like about 12, she left South Korea and immigrated to Canada. Then she ends up in New York. And she reconnects with the boy she had a crush on back when she was a 12-year-old. But you know, 12, 14, 20 years go by, whatever, and they finally get together and meet. And she obviously still has feelings because she's wondering, okay, what would have happened had I stayed and you know, been with this guy? But she's also married now. And so it's her husband, and they end up with this, it's kind of an interesting date night where her husband, and this boyhood, crush that she had feelings for. They're out there, and she's talking with Korean to the guy there, and the husband's just sitting there. He knows that she has feelings, but he also knows he needs to let her express those feelings, get it out of her system. I thought it was just really a sweet drama.
And I really think that streaming services like Netflix really are exposing folks. Now people are more apt to seeing foreign films.
All the growth on Netflix has been South Korea, and now they're really aiming to bring Japanese stuff into the market.
It's so neat to see you have a worldwide selection now, and that's fun. Well, now we have Best Documentary.
Best Documentary, and I'm going to say I don't think it was a great year for documentaries here. Boy, I watched about 100 of these back in October, and kept waiting for that one to really jump out at me. Still, a Michael J. Fox movie is the one that a lot of people are going to see over on Apple. But American Symphony, which is John Baptiste. He was the band leader. He was with Stay Human. That was the name of his group. He won all those Grammy Awards. And this was basically just supposed to be a video about him making a piece of music to be performed in New York City. But at the same time, his wife gets a cancer diagnosis. Oh, wow. And so it's about her struggle with illness and him trying to use his music to help her cope, but also himself. I really like John Baptiste. I like his music quite a bit, and that cancer diagnosis and that marital relationship is the thing that put this over the top for me. I just thought it was a really good movie, a sweet movie too.
These are all great, and Sean, what's great about this is if we missed out, you're giving us, hey, you need to see these. And so you missed them throughout the year, but now it's your chance to see them. But no, some great selection.
Tons of movies.
You will be back on Monday.
Monday we're going to top 10.
Awesome.
Yeah, top 10.
Well, Happy New Year. We'll see you on the first day of 2024.
Sounds great.
And we'll be right back with more of The Morning Show.